Welcome to Fighting Back. News talk, current events, and political commentary. Now here's the host of Fighting Back, Uncle Ronnie.
Hello, 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 boys and girls and all the ships at sea. We've got a really neat show tonight. We're up here in our cabin up in the north. It's still snowing. It's not piling up much, but it is snowing. We have a fire over here. We've got chestnuts. I don't know if we have any eggnog left, but we're going to have a good time tonight. And as usual, we have Ray Michaels.
Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas Eve before the day.
The day before the Christmas
Yes.
Eve. Yes. Santa Claus is coming to
Merry
town.
Christmas Eve.
And we have Senator Eddie Farnsworth. And wow, I'll tell you, I've known Senator Farnsworth for quite some time.
And what an honor to have you here, Senator. Thanks so
Yes,
much.
I am just really, I've had him on another show I used to do years ago on another station, which we won't mention, because that's where Mr. O'Connor came from. But it was on the phone. I don't know if you remember that.
Was that CNN?
I do.
Yeah, okay.
Well, he shut that show down shortly after the interview with me, so I don't know what that means, but we're giving it another shot.
Well, at any rate, there's a lot going on here. You know, we still don't have a president of the United States. Some people
we
believe
do.
we do.
We
We
do have a president of the United
Yeah,
States.
we have a president, it's Donald Trump, but
Yeah.
some people, we have a phony office called the Office of the Vice President. And so, but that's the
President-elect.
The president of Vice.
The office of the president-elect.
Vice. Anyway, and you know, there's so much going on in a number of states, Arizona being one of them. And we have a lot of turmoil here as to what actually happened during the election. And I have numbers here that would indicate that there is something wrong with the tallies of our election. And Senator Farnsworth is right in the thick of things, as he always is. And he's, you know, this man is a warrior. He's not a wimp. And so tell us what's going on. Well, how did you get involved in this, and what is the latest news?
Well, you're referring obviously to the effort that we're trying to make to do audits of at least Maricopa County at this point, the votes. And so, you know, we started to get a number of complaints and concerns that were expressed that there were problems with the elections, that poll watchers weren't able to get close, and so they really couldn't watch. People who were saying that they had people that had died and had voted, and you know, that kind of stuff. So after it got to a certain point, we said, okay, well look, we ought to look into this. We're not saying that there is fraud. We don't know, but what we do know is that the confidence in our election system is really kind of taking a beating at this point.
I'll agree.
Yeah.
So what we decided to do was to try to encourage the Maracopa County Board of Supervisors and the other supervisors as well, but Maracopa County makes up probably, 62% of the total vote in the state. So we had discussions with the county and talked about them doing some kind of a forensic audit. And then a letter came out from the chairman saying, no, we've done everything perfectly, we don't need to, and there's no fraud.
This is from the County Board of Supervisors.
This is from the County Board of
Okay.
Supervisors. So this was the chairman that put out a letter. And then they got a tremendous amount of backlash, was my understanding, from constituents. And so one of the supervisors decided that they were going to come out and say, I think we should do an audit.
Mm-hmm.
And then the county board decided that they were going to, I guess, kind of get some cover. And so they said, well, but we haven't been able to because of lawsuits that are currently going on, and that would be tampering with evidence. So that's been their position. So we had a couple of meetings with them. I called a hearing. So the Judiciary Committee in the Senate, which I chair, we had a meeting last Monday, and it was about a 6-hour meeting, and I was appreciative that the county sent representation. Clint Hickman, who's the chair, was there, and they had counsel, and we had one of their election directors that was there. And then we had the representatives from the AG that came in and testified about their task force on fraud. So it was a very good meeting, but there were some concerns, and one of the big concerns was we heard testimony from the elections director that there's no way there could have been fraud because we would have known about it. And a couple of us pushed back, including me, and I said,
Right.
you know, history's replete with white-collar crime and digital crime, and the victims don't know that they've been victimized until some way down the road. And so that's when I decided to go ahead and issue the subpoenas. And the subpoenas are asking for access to the machines and the software and basically the digital record, so that we can get an independent, verified, and certified third-party auditor to come in and and see if there's any shenanigans, if the results seem that they're reasonable. And I think that makes sense, because if we find fraud, we certainly want to know about it. And then the
Certainly,
legislature
yes.
wants to go in January and try to tighten things up, or at least processes being tightened up. And if we didn't have fraud, I think that goes a long way to saying we didn't have any problems. And it verifies that you don't have to have concerns about the election process. So it just makes sense to me, and that's what we're doing.
So the term fraud, would that cover everything? I mean, because, you know, in the very beginning there was Sharpie Gate, and then people said they weren't allowed to observe, and people were sent away, and they had to push the button. Would all of that encompass fraud, or would it be fraud would be part of it?
No, they're two separate. You could have, for example, you could have a machine that some reason the software, the root core software that runs the machine, gets a glitch and it miscounts. Nobody intended that. It wasn't intentional, and so that wouldn't be fraud. But it obviously the results would be skewed.
Right.
So no, it doesn't mean that it's all fraud, and that's why I said we haven't alleged that it's fraud. We're suggesting that there may have been a problem. We may have seen a skew. And
Yeah,
so let's make sure.
so there's many discrepancies, fraud being one of them.
Let me interrupt here, because this is critical.
Yeah.
Arizona, the margin is, I think, 0.2%, the difference between Biden and Trump. 11,500 votes, something to that
Somewhere
effect.
around there, yes.
And so a little glitch, or a little bigger glitch, could change the whole result of the election.
A lot of things could change it, right? If you're that close in your margin, yeah, a lot of things could.
Now, Eddie, knowing the players here on the Secretary of State, this is a woman, this is Katie Hobbs, and she has tweeted out back about 2 years ago, she tweeted out, ladies and gentlemen, that people that supported President Trump were neo-Nazis. So what could possibly go wrong?
Now those are Nazis from the Matrix,
I guess.
right? 'Cause it was Neo.
Then we had another gentleman who was the recorder of Maricopa County and running the elections, and we know that this man is prone to shenanigans, which is a fancy word for saying he doesn't obey the rules that are on, and he didn't even obey some of the rules that were taken to the Supreme Court and said, you can't do this, and he decided he wanted to try to do it anyway, even
Right.
though the Supreme Court of the state of Arizona said you cannot do this. And I don't know, he wasn't held in contempt, but he was sure skating on the edge.
And you wonder why not?
Yes,
Right?
why not?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with those issues?
I am a little bit, yes, and that's a very valid question. Why not?
And what could possibly go wrong when you have these two?
Now I understand that you place a subpoena, which you have every right to do as a legislature, and then they refused to follow the subpoena. Where do we sit now?
That is correct. So we issued 2 subpoenas, and I say we because the President Karen Fann signed on to those subpoenas as well. So I did as the chairman, and then she did as the president of the Senate, which is what the statute allows. So we issued subpoenas, 2 of them, one that covered the machines and covered the software, and then we had a second one that covers essentially the digital image of the ballots. So what happens is every time a ballot is scanned to read the vote, it also takes a picture.
Okay.
And then it serializes that so that they can use that in sometime in the future. They have to keep these for probably close to 2 years. I think it's 22 months. And so that subpoena went after this, what's called the CVR. It's the cast vote record. And then what we can do is there's software that has been developed, basically using the bank technology, where they run checks through and they check for fraud and they check to see if your
Right.
signature is valid, et cetera. And there's a group that tweaked that, and we can run those digital scans through that software, and it can tell us a lot about whether these were pre-printed, whether they were marked after the fact or not, whether they were folded. So all early ballots should be folded, and I believe we had testimony to that effect, that all early ballots should be folded. Well, that breaks the fibers of the paper, and so this scan can tell if it was folded. It also,
Right.
because it's serialized, and it can compare basically, it becomes a fingerprint. When you do a ballot, you're going to write on it differently than I am.
Right.
And you may have a little mark that you left when you accidentally touched it with the pen, or you had something on your hands. So there are fingerprints, and this will scan it and compare it to the other digital signatures. and it can identify whether there are duplicates or not. So there's a lot of technology that we can use. It's not invasive. It's not an issue. And so those are the issues that subpoenas covered. The board met for 2 days, probably a total of 6.5 hours in executive session, and then they came out and decided that they had a motion on the table to not comply with the subpoena, but to take it to court, and that's what they did. So they filed in the court to essentially quash the subpoenas.
And so what happened, because I understand that court case was just yesterday.
No, that was actually so what we did is they did not ask for expedited hearing, which means under the rules of civil procedure, this thing could drag out for who knows, months. Well, obviously, that's not very helpful in this election, or even with the session, because the legislature starts in about 2.5 weeks, the new session, and they need to have information, so if they're going to work on legislation, they can do that. So what we decided to do is we filed a new action that we asked for an expedited hearing, and that's what was heard yesterday, kind of a preliminary, and then we had a hearing today, and in fact we have the ruling from the judge, but the hearing today was for jurisdiction. So does the court have jurisdiction? The judge seemed to think that maybe they didn't because there is a legislative remedy in the statutes to enforce, but it's very limited when we're not in session, and this is why it was so important to have us called into session so that we could act as a full legislature with much broader authority than just a standing committee chairman and the president of the Senate. So one of the things that we arguably can't do right now is just a committee is to determine whether they are in violation, and therefore they're in contempt of the legislative subpoena. Mm-hmm. So there can't be that declaration because it requires under the statute a vote of the House or the Senate. So
Which are not in session.
We're not in session, so that's a problem. So that enforcement mechanism, if we were in session and if that declaration were made, the president of the Senate could actually send the sergeant at arms out and have them arrested, and they could be incarcerated. I mean, that's the power that exists.
Here comes Gitmo.
Yeah, and that's not what anybody wants, quite honestly. What we want is just simply to have access so we can do an audit. They're unwilling to do it. They say they're willing, but none of their actions indicate that, and they have said that they can't do anything because they have these court cases that are out there, and I think there are still 3 pending.
So we know that the governor has the power to call a special session. We know that.
Correct.
And we know that the legislature has the power to call a session. So what would it take for the legislature to come together for this purpose, to call a session and to enforce?
2/3.
2/3
Yep.
of both houses?
Those are
Yes.
lasers coming through at it.
Yep.
Duck down.
Yeah.
So is that from both houses?
It's from both houses.
Okay.
Yes.
So knowing that the discrepancy could be in either direction, it could be for one party or the other, and we all want a fair election. I think all of your colleagues, all of the other legislators would agree that we want a fair and honest election, right? Everybody agrees to that. So for this specific purpose, wouldn't 2/3 agree to come in so that you can enforce that, so that we can all be reassured as citizens that everything was done according to
You would
exactly
think so.
what? Yeah.
You would think so, because this is a bipartisan issue of election integrity. So
Yes,
I
it
would
is.
say yes, that you would think that they would want that, but the stakes are pretty high. I mean, we see what happened in Michigan with the audit that went on there, and they had 66% that were false votes, or mistaken votes or incorrect votes.
But wouldn't we want to know either way?
I would think so. That's
Yeah.
why we're pushing, because
Yeah.
we think it's important to our constituents to know that the election is open, fair, and secure.
I think where I'm hearing some music here, I think there's a break
Are
coming
the
up
dancers
here.
coming out?
Yeah, I think the dancers are coming out.
Neil,
Mr.
can you bring up? Just hold it back for a minute. The dancers.
Yeah, listen, we'll be right back. I think this is season's greetings and Christmas greetings. I don't think it's a commercial for you to buy a product. So let's see where we're at, Mr. O'Connor. We'll be right back with Eddie Farnsworth.
In a world where security matters more than ever, Lionheart Security Services stands head and shoulders above the competition. Whether it's airport security, high-rise residential and office security, event security, warehouse security, or even personal security, call the best of the best. Lionheart Security Services. We provide armed and unarmed officers. Our armed officers are held to the strictest standards of 90% accuracy, 20% higher than Arizona standards. When it comes to securing you, your goods, and services. Call Lionheart Security Services, 480-485-2304, or find them on the web at lionheartsecurityservices.com.
You are truly an amazing woman. Tell us the name of your company.
It's Janet King, well, DBA M&R Janet King. I've been doing this for 18 years, and I have 70 employees working for me. I do commercial cleaning. If you guys need any commercial
Yeah, you're here in the Valley.
I'm here in the Valley. I work in Chandler, Tempe, Mesa, Phoenix, everywhere. And now after coronavirus and March 18, 20, I'm doing fogging and completely total disinfecting of any facility. You have an active case in your facility, call me, I'll take care of you.
So you take care of homes, it could be adult living, anything like that.
Anything that you need a total disinfecting. I have the equipment, I have the people, and whatever you need. Let's kill this virus.
All right, so what's the website?
It's marthallamas.com. Go to my website, and then you'll see everything I do and, everything about me.
All right, spell out your last name for all of our viewing audience.
I start with my name, martha.lamas.com. That's where you go.
And how do they reach you by telephone?
My phone number is 480-577-9574.
You're listening to Fighting Back, news talk, current events, and political commentary. Now here's the host of Fighting Back, Uncle Ronnie.
Yes, it is Uncle Ronnie, and we're here with Ray Michaels and Senator Eddie Farnsworth. That's a good-looking beard, but it doesn't quite match Santa's. You better try a little harder.
He's in training for next year, maybe.
This is the first time ever.
At any rate, we're talking about what's been going on in the state of Arizona, and we're one of the states here, as many of you know, that Fox News called as a Biden state with, I think the
Less than 20%?
Yeah, I think we were still even voting, weren't we, at the time when
Yeah.
they called it?
Yeah.
Which was kind of crazy. And there's a lot of us out here that feel that there was a lot of nonsense that went on. We challenged a number of people ourselves, and thank God we have a senator like Senator Eddie Farnsworth. And he was telling us about what has been happening with the Maracopa Board of Supervisors. They had a vote of 4-1 to withhold the information that the Senate was looking at. And I personally believe that there's a good reason for Senator Farnsworth's actions to materialize. So, Eddie, tell us a little more. What's going on? We know a little bit of the history now. There's been, gosh knows how many cases before the courts. And one thing I do want to ask, I know you're an attorney, so why is it that all of these courts keep saying that there's no standing by the people that are bringing the case? I mean, as a voter in Arizona, I feel that my vote did not count. And so I certainly believe I have standing because I was injured in the process.
Yeah, I think that there are fewer that ruled on standing than actually just saying that there wasn't enough evidence. Now, here's the circular argument, the catch-22 is, how do you get evidence if you can't have access to the information? But you can't get access to the information until you have evidence. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem, and that's why the legislative subpoenas, because the Maracopa County Board of Supervisors has chosen not to do any audits. And so the only way to get the information is to actually audit. So that's the basis
I'm
of it.
curious, was any of the Board of Supervisors for Maricopa County, were they there at the hearing that Mayor Giuliani had here in Arizona?
That I don't know. I wasn't a part of that hearing, so
I know we had some
That was the
legislators
Mark
there.
Fincham, Representative Mark Fincham's hearing that Monday. I was not there, but I did look around the room.
Well,
and
we
I did see
talked
a
about
number
it,
of
yeah.
number of state representatives and senators were there, but I did not notice any of the Board of Supervisors.
the distinction between that hearing is that was not a sanctioned legislative hearing, so it was not official. Ours was an official hearing under the authority that was granted us by the President of the Senate and my authority as the chairman of the committee. So a standing committee can meet in the interim when we're not in session. We just can't take a vote and pass legislation and do that kind of stuff. But we can have informational hearings like this one was.
Now, we had mentioned that there's several ways that the legislature can come back into session, right? It's 2/3 of both House and Senate can come in. Or the governor could call a special session specifically for this. Now, we had talked in the break, and I had said, well, doesn't it seem right? I mean, I'm sure the governor of the state of Arizona, the great state of Arizona, number 48.
And being a Republican
and
as well.
And a friend, I think. I mean,
Of
he did a
Donald
lot
Trump,
of lot of things with Donald Trump, President Trump. You would think that he would say, you know what? Let's be fair. Let's be fully transparent. Let's go in and do it. It seems that would be the natural step.
You would think so. I mean, I'm one of those also that called to go back into session. And for whatever reason, Governor Ducey has chosen not to call us back in. I can tell you all of this would be much easier with much broader authority. And we could really, I think we could really compel under subpoena power and then the enforcement action that we have if there's contempt of the legislative subpoena power. So I can't answer you why, but you're absolutely right. With the stroke of a pen, he could call us into session and we could deal with this as a legislative body.
So with the, because there are 3 branches here in the state, just as there are in the United States, you would think that some of the senators, some of the representatives would call him on the phone and say, hey, Governor, let's do this. Especially knowing that we come from Arizona. And thank you, Mike, for bringing this over. Everybody knows that Joe Biden wants to take guns away. He wants to put heavy restrictions. We are an open carry state. I mean, this is very, very important to Arizonans. So wouldn't you think that knowing that he's already put into place that he wants to do what he calls common sense gun legislation, wouldn't you think that they would want to at least bring that to the surface?
I do, but I think that's maybe a different issue because what we're looking is election security from the legislature. And you have to remember the legislature under the United States Constitution has plenary authority when it comes to elections. Plenary authority, for those who don't know, means we have absolute authority.
Yes.
It's not given to the executive. It's not given to the judiciary. It resides with the legislature of each state. Then what we can do is we decide what the process is going to be for these elections. And what we've done for the most part is delegated to the county through statute the systems and the processes, et cetera, and the things that they have to do. So that's what we're trying to deal with. Now, the outcome might, if there's fraud or if there's a mistake in the machine or if we get the same kind of information that they got in Michigan and we see that we're wildly askew of what a legitimate election looks like, then yes, it could be used in the current election and it might help Donald Trump. But that's not the primary focus here. The primary focus is election integrity. And so we haven't debated the Joe Biden taking away guns issue. That's kind of a separate issue.
I guess, yeah. I didn't want to bring it in as a separate issue. I just wanted to put out what is on the line in not having a fair election.
Oh, absolutely.
So that is definitely one of those things that he's going to move in that direction. So although it's not, I don't want to bring it in as a separate. These are some of the consequences that could happen directly to our state. if it wasn't a fair election.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is absolutely true. And that's, so yeah, I see where you're going. I mean, it is critical that we have an open and fair and secure election so that the will of the people that's heard. That's really one of the fundamental hallmarks and tenets in our kind of a constitutional republic is we get to decide what direction we're going. We don't all agree at the same time.
Right.
But that's the process, and I will be the first one. If there's no fraud and if there's no anomalies and this was a fair and secure election, I'll be the first one to say, you know what, Joe Biden was not my choice, but doggone it, the people have spoken, and Joe Biden it will be the next president.
Hey, Uncle Ronnie, do you still have the numbers
Well,
that
I'm
we
going
did
to run
last
through
show?
some numbers
Yeah.
right now. I was just getting ready to say that. We have one of the issues here. You talked about the CVR, and that's the cast vote record in Maricopa County. What that is, ladies and gentlemen, is it looks like over 2 million votes had been cast. Shouldn't say that quite that way. 2 million ballots. I think it was 2,085,000.
So
something
physical
like that.
ballots.
Yes, had
Okay.
gone out and come back. Okay, and they were to be counted. Now, you don't have to vote for anybody, or you don't have to. You can vote for everyone that you want, or nobody. But the ballot has to be counted if it comes back
So-
officially voted.
So a physical paper ballot.
Yes. So
Okay.
In Arizona, in Arizona, we require paper ballots.
Okay.
So yes, we have physical paper ballots
Okay.
that are then scanned.
thank you. So now we've got these numbers. Now remember, this is the control number. Now I want you all to know. I'm not sure whether I'm proud of this or not, but I have spent most of my life as an accountant and an auditor. I'm used to working with numbers. Debits equal credits. So if you have 2 million ballots out there, something ought to balance to 2 million.
Right.
Like the number of papers that went through the machines. Okay? They don't, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Eddie's an attorney, so I'm going to tell you this. This is hearsay on my part because I heard it from somebody else that is in the know. There were 29,000 more ballots counted than were actually there. So somebody voted additional ballots. Now, we also know that on a national basis, we had the same basic problem. We went through this on the show Monday, and that is, Mr. O'Connor, just don't take us out for a break here. We're going to move through this here. That there were 200, I'm going to go through the numbers in short detail here. 213 million people registered to vote in the United States. Okay, that is a certified number. It has been certified. Secondly, we know that 66.2% of Americans exercised their right to vote. That means that there were 141 million total votes, ballots, okay, that were taken out. Okay, now to that, Donald Trump got 74 million, okay, which leaves 67 million votes difference. 67 million. So that's the total votes, ladies and gentlemen. Try to understand this now as I say that. Donald Trump got where is it at? 74 million. Okay, there are 67 million votes still out there to be shared with Biden and the, I think it was a libertarian that ran.
Independent, libertarian.
Independents. I don't know. Each state might have had more people. So there were only 76 million votes that could have. So Donald Trump won. He won 74 million to 67 million. Don't know how that was dispersed, which means there were almost 14 million more votes counted than were cast. Now, I wrote to the Board of Supervisors, and I've asked them to come here tonight, Supervisor Gates, because he is my supervisor. He has ignored me, and I just want to say that on the air.
How could he ignore you, Uncle
I know,
Ronnie?
nobody ignores me.
Good-looking
Nobody
guy
does.
like you, come on.
You should have issued the subpoenas.
Yes.
Nobody
I
ignores
should-
Uncle Ronnie.
You
Yeah,
should
that's
let
right.
me handle this. But at any rate, the bottom line is when you have, you don't need the forensic audits. You don't need the fraud accusations. You don't need all the different documents. The only thing you need to subpoena is that document, the CVR. And if they don't balance, you've got a problem. Now, then you've got to go in and say, do we need the
you-
audits? Do we need the
audit?
fraud
If the numbers
issues?
don't match, they don't match.
Right, debits equal credits.
You
If
don't
the-
need
if
to
these
audit.
numbers do not match, you have a problem. Maricopa County has a problem. Now, we talked to, we had Steve Chukri here one night, and of course, we worked on him. And I told him, I said, you're a friend. I'm not going to beat you up, but I want some answers. And he gave us answers, and that's when he finally came up and admitted we needed an audit.
Yeah.
I've asked him time and time again to get this CVR. He hasn't provided it yet. Says that Fontes, the recorder's office, has not provided it for him. Oops, there goes those lasers again. Doggone it, I wish he'd quit shooting at us. Duck, Eddie, duck.
Santa's sleigh has lasers on it.
Any rate, there we are. Any rate, so that automatically tells you something. Now, the next thing that I asked, who did the due diligence on the Dominion equipment? Well, the board did not. They farmed that out to staff. Whose staff do you think it was?
Adrian Fontes?
Ooh,
Wow.
wowzers. What could possibly go wrong?
So I'm curious, because I know that you've talked on this. Were you aware of these numbers?
Yes, I am. I've seen those.
Okay.
Yes.
So can we get those actual numbers? Because if in fact more votes were cast than
Were counted than ballots
cast, then I mean that is the discrepancy right there. Whether it's fraud or not, we don't know. But it was
And that
a
deserves
big,
an investigation.
Right.
That's what we're
right.
trying to do. That's what the subpoena is trying to do, is get the CVRs.
Oh, so that's in addition to.
No, there are two subpoenas, and one of them
Okay.
is going after the CVR.
And who has control of the CVR?
I believe, I don't know if it's Fontes or
Pretty sure
I think it is.
At least in Maricopa County.
The voter rolls are under Fontes. I believe the CVRs are under Fontes.
So what
And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, he was defeated in his reelection bid
Right.
because I think the people of Maricopa County realized that this man skirted the law.
so
Well, I won't
how-
say he crossed the line, but he was right on the edge.
It seems that everybody would want to know those numbers. It's not making any sense to me that there has to be this massive exercise that we go
To
through
cover those numbers
just
up.
to be able to get one document. I mean, basically, it's going to be a number.
Yeah, and it's simple. If we had the CVR, we could run the scans and have a pretty good idea of where we are.
And the
but-
governor is not willing to do that?
Well, the governor has not called us into session, so at this point, he's been unwilling to assist. I'm not going to speak for the governor on what he thinks about the election, but what I am going to say is the governor has been requested by many legislators that he call us into session, because we'll never get the votes in the legislature, and he has chosen not to this date. So I don't know what his motivation is. I don't know what he's afraid of. Maybe he thinks everything was peachy keen and we don't have to do any kind of an audit. I again don't see the harm in doing an audit. So
And
that's-
believe me, the county has the money to do this, to put in towards this audit. And I don't know where the state is on it, but I do know, I've talked to the Board of Supervisors, and they do have the money to do this. It's not that it's gonna break them. And I, for one, will put my 25 cents in to make it happen.
You know-
I don't understand why the county supervisors have been fighting this. I truly don't understand it. They could put all of this to bed by simply there are a couple of things. So they make the excuse that because we have litigation going on, they can't deal with any of this information because it would be tampering with evidence. I don't agree with that, but let's say that that's true. So what they could do is simply petition the court in those particular cases and say, we want to do an audit. Because the remedies that are being asked for is to do an audit. So if they petition the court and said, we want to do an audit, order us to do an audit and we'll do it, they could render the cases moot. They could get the information. They could put this whole thing to bed. In other cases, they can negotiate with the plaintiffs and say, look, we're willing to do an audit if you're willing to drop the case.
Well,
But they haven't done any of that.
I have a suggestion, and we've talked about this before, and especially when Supervisor Chukri was here. And I had advised him, he says, we've got a certain date that we have got to certify the election. And I said to him, I don't think you have to certify. You have a certain date that you have to vote on certification, but a no vote is just as accurate as a yes vote. You don't have to vote, yes, I certify these. Say, no, I don't. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable that I have enough information to say this election was run according to Hoyle. And that seems to be a problem. Now, I think what's happened is I think that they have farmed out a lot of their responsibilities, Senator. And one of the things that they did when they farmed that stuff out, now all of a sudden they found themselves certifying something that they did not really certify. Somebody said, looks good to me, and okay, sign here. And they did. That's what I think. But what's that?
So right now there's an issue with standing or jurisdiction.
There's not an issue yet. What we have is,
I mean, with the court.
yeah,
with the court,
in the second case that was filed, that we filed, meaning Karen Fan, President Karen Fan, and I, as the chair of Judiciary Committee, are the claimants. So we're the ones that filed it. There was the judge questioned whether there was jurisdiction, and the opposing counsel representing the Board of Supervisors also said, yeah, we don't think that there's jurisdiction, and we also think that there's a standing issue. And the court asked, well, if they don't have standing as the president and the chairman of the committee, who has standing?
Right.
And so I don't know that that's been an issue at this point. The judge today, so we had a hearing today on that jurisdiction issue. Now, let me point out the interesting part of this. The opposing counsel is making the argument that we don't have jurisdiction, and yet what did they do? They filed in court. So,
Yes.
so they're kind of talking out of both sides of their mouths, because they ran to the court and said, we want you to deal with this.
To a court, they said they don't have jurisdiction.
Correct. But then when we filed, now there's no jurisdiction in the court. So it is a faulty argument, and so that's the issue. These two cases will probably be combined. They'll be consolidated. And but the jurisdiction, I believe that the court's probably going to find that there's jurisdiction. There are a number of statutes that actually are very clear on that.
It seems to me that if you have the ability to do when you are in session, and because you're not in session, that you can't enforce the existing subpoena, that the court would have to come in as a kind of as a fail-safe for the legislature to say, well, if we can't enforce the subpoena, it's a valid subpoena, we can't go in right now because we're not in session. It has to go to the court. Otherwise, what's the point of going through the exercise?
Right, and they're not, the legislative authority is not an exclusive remedy. So there, if you will, there are multiple paths that can be taken. One of those is for the legislature in session, again, to declare contempt and then to go out and enforce. Since we're not in session, we can't do that. But another path that is perfectly legal and legitimate is to go to the court. So when you say we can't enforce it, let's just be clear to those who are listening. The legislature can't enforce it internally through a declaration of contempt unless they're in session. But there are other ways to enforce it, like going to the court.
Right,
the other thing that can be done is it's a Class 2 misdemeanor to essentially blow off a subpoena. But we would have to have the AG or the county. The county's not going to do it because they're being represented by the county attorney. So they're the prosecutorial arm of the county. So it would have to be the AG, and they would have to be willing to come in and prosecute. It's a Class 2 misdemeanor, so there would be jail time. There's a pretty hefty fine. It's fairly substantial.
Welcome to Gitmo.
Yeah. So
Now,
again, that's not what we want. You know what we want? We want an
fair
audit.
and free
We want to make
elections.
sure that,
Yeah.
you know, and this is one of the things that I wrote to the Board of Supervisors after their vote that day. It came very quickly on it. I not only texted it to them, they have some of their their phones, and then I wrote it down there. I said, you guys have missed the entire process here. The question that I really have is, does Uncle Ronnie's vote count, or was it subverted legally or illegally by other transactions, or did a machine properly record my vote and others so that my vote equals the same vote as anybody else that was out
Right.
there?
Now,
And
Uncle
the
Ronnie,
answer, I think, I think the answer is it was subverted. No, your vote did not count as the same as others.
Right.
At least that's my feeling.
So, Uncle Ronnie, at the last show, you brought out some Latin legal jargon with regard to if a elected official got into office and then they found out a later time that they got in illegally, that they could be removed. Do you remember that?
I do.
What was the name?
And it's a really, I've never heard of it before.
Maybe the senator's
And
familiar
we'll
with
see.
this.
A writ of
Hey,
quo.
I got in legally. I don't know why. Don't pull me into this. Don't make allegations.
Okay, it's a writ of quo warranto. Have you ever heard of that term?
Yeah,
Quo
I've heard,
warranto?
when you're in law school, you hear a lot of these terms, but I can't tell you that I remember all of them, to be honest.
Well, I've
Wasn't it
never
just
heard of
yesterday
this. Of
you
course,
were
I
in
didn't
law
go to
school?
law school.
Yeah, it was a long, long time
I
ago.
didn't go to law school. I drove by one once, though.
In
that's good.
other words, the reason why I brought this up, say for instance, Joe Biden was elected, they found out that he got in illegally, they could do this to him, right? Say for instance that maybe, and I'm not alleging anything, I'm just saying hypothetically, if say somebody who sits on a board got in because they knew that something like this was going to happen, they could also be removed. Is that right?
Well, the way this law, well, I've got the law verbatim. It's a little unclear to me. It says usurps, intrudes into, or unlawfully holds exercises or franchise conferred by the United States public office of the United States, civil and military. In other
Okay, so
words,
civil and military United States, so state would not count.
I would doubt the state does.
Yeah.
But if in fact the states got together and said that Biden was the president-elect and he was sworn in, and then later, Eddie, the state of Arizona got these numbers and said, whoa, Trump actually won. And Pennsylvania's, whoa, Trump actually won. And Georgia, same thing. Now we find out that Trump was the one that got the 270 electoral votes. Then what happens? Well, they can remove Biden from office and they can put Trump in office.
Right.
I mean, this is a crazy, I've never seen anything like this. And I'm older than you guys put together. So I've never seen anything like this.
You know what I found fascinating is that, all of these deadlines that we get, the January 6th and the deadline for, sending it to the Electoral College and all of these were all based originally on how long it took for them to count and then get on their horse and go to the place. I mean, these aren't numbers that mean anything other than they needed the time to travel from point A to point B, right? So let's just say that we get to the point that this doesn't go through. We try very hard, we get to that point, and it goes to the Electoral College on the 6th, and there is a discrepancy there. Are you familiar with the process of what would happen
I am.
then?
Yeah.
Okay. For our audience here, Senator, could you explain what that process would be?
Oh, the process from that point?
Yeah.
Well, so the vice president, who is the president of the Senate, would be in the chair. And what they do then is they have a combined, a joint meeting of the Senate and the House. And Vice President Pence would chair that. And then they take each state one by one and they open up the envelope or whatever it's in, and they read what those electoral votes are. How did the elector vote? What happens then is it will be accepted by the Congress, or somebody will object, and you have to have an objection both in the House and in the Senate. It only takes one person. And then the vice president has to be in writing, so the vice president will ask if it's in writing, and they will. And so he will rule that there's an objection on that particular state and the electors that voted. So that will be removed. So let's say that the first state is, and I may be off a little bit, but let's say it's Alaska. Is that the first state? So Alaska, it comes up and there's nobody contests it. Then that would go in, Alaska's electoral votes would go in the column of Joe Biden or Donald Trump, depending
Right.
on which one happened. They'd go along until they had one state that somebody objected, and that would be put aside.
Could it be any senator or any rep from any of the
Yes.
states to object to any of the other states?
Yes.
Okay, it doesn't have to be their own state.
It does not.
Okay.
And so then they're permitted up to 5 minutes for each individual that wants to speak, and I believe they're limited to a 2-hour debate. They go back to their individual chambers and they have a 2-hour debate. Then there's a vote, and that vote is, are you going to overturn the chair, because the chair has made a ruling that this is not going to be included in the electoral vote. Are you going to override the chair? If they vote yes, then they override, and that now is included. However the electors for that state voted, it would then be tallied in that column. If not, then it is held out. So they go through that for all the states, and then when they're done, as you tally up those electoral votes, if neither candidate reaches the 270 that's required, at that point it would then go to the House to vote to decide who the president's going to be. That is done on a one vote per state basis. So not every congressman gets to vote and have a single vote. So in Arizona, we would have all of ours get together, and the majority would decide whether it's going to go for President Trump or Mr. Biden. That's the way it works, as I understand it.
Now, is it an actual motion with the joint session? So somebody has to put out that they find a discrepancy, or they say, no, I don't agree. Does it have to be seconded, or it is not a
I
motion?
think it's just an objection.
Okay.
But there has to be an objection in both the House and the Senate. If there's only in the House, then it doesn't work. The objection fails.
And I think there's already people lined up to do that.
On some of the states, I believe that's the case. I don't have any inside information, but I've heard it.
Let's cut to the quick here. Where do we stand in Arizona? The law, has the judge today made a final decision, or is he just a tentative decision? Working on this, where are we at?
It's not a tentative. It is a final decision, but it's a final decision on a very limited scope of this lawsuit. So what the judge heard today were arguments on whether the court had jurisdiction over this issue and whether there was standing. And so the court has agreed. I believe standing is fine. Jurisdiction, we're going to plead that because he threw out the writ of mandamus, which is basically an immediately to compel the Board of Supervisors to comply with the subpoena. So that writ of mandamus was dropped, but we still have the ability to argue the other pieces of the lawsuit, which then he would decide whether that's going to go forward. It probably will be consolidated. I don't know this for sure, but it'll probably be consolidated with the suit that the Board of Supervisors filed a couple of days before we filed ours. And then what we'll do is we'll ask for it to be an expedited hearing, and then the judge, in whomever it is that takes that in a consolidation, will have to decide if it's going to be expedited or go into the regular process.
Well, there's two things at play here. One is tomorrow's Christmas Eve. I don't think a lot of work's going to be done tomorrow in any offices. The lawyers are already
except
working.
by Santa.
Santa and his workshop, right. Okay, so that's one thing. I mean, I don't think a lot of work's going to get done until next week at this point. Two, we have a clock that is running. Is it the 5th or the 6th of January?
6th.
The 6th, where this process that you just discussed is about to happen. So we don't have a lot of days left in here.
Right. So if we let's just look at a calendar
We're
here.
about 12 days maybe
see
of
where we're
actual.
at.
Yeah,
and
we're
of
running
course-
out of runway. There's no question. But again, we're not running out of runway to ensure that Arizona has an open, fair, and secure election.
Right.
We can't lose sight of that. The benefit that may come to the President Trump campaign may exist if the audit shows that there was in fact fraud or anomalies or some kind of skewed counting. But from a legislative standpoint, for me, the issue doesn't go away on January 6th.
No,
we need
of
to
course
continue to
not.
pursue this and
Right.
make sure that it was done properly. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. For the current election, yeah, we're running out of runway to ensure that we have fair elections. That's something we have to continue to pursue.
6 business days is basically what it comes
Wow.
down to. Yeah.
Now, they can file tomorrow. There's not going to be a hearing tomorrow, but the
Yeah.
parties can file the modified complaint.
Can
which
they
is what we're
file
gonna do.
electronically like some states?
I
Yeah,
think
up to
everything is
yeah,
filed
yeah,
electronically now.
Everything's electronic. You
Yeah.
don't have to be
So
there.
they can do it over the weekend, actually.
That is correct, and they probably will be working over the weekend. So what'll probably
Poor
happen?
Alexander. He's missed Thanksgiving. He's missed Labor Day.
Yeah. Now Alexander is not representing a party to the case.
He's more of a friend of the court.
They did an amicus brief,
Right.
which is a friend of
Yeah.
the court, and they were given leeway to do that, and then they even were able to make a comment today, a statement to the court. But the parties, so what the judge has done is given leave for us, through our attorneys. We will file tomorrow an amended complaint to take into account what the judge ruled today. And then I'm sure that both parties will be working over the weekend. Hopefully they'll take Christmas off. But both parties will be working over the weekend, and then hopefully we'll have a hearing
Hanukkah's over,
next
so
week.
if we have Jewish lawyers, maybe they'll,
That's true.
Maybe they'll work, because Hanukkah's already over.
That's true. That's true. There's the silver lining. That's why you are Uncle Ronnie.
Listen, Mr. O'Connor, can you run that Christmas greetings? And do you have some time? We're gonna bring in Tara, and we're gonna go over a little time, but we've got some really neat things we want to talk about for Christmas.
For Uncle Ronnie, I have nothing but time. Nothing but time.
Now that is a public servant right here.
You know, it's funny he's calling me Uncle Ronnie because my dad was named Edward, and everybody called him Uncle Eddie.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
See, I thought maybe he was just expecting a Christmas gift from his uncle.
There you go.
He is. I was going to give him your Christmas hat. So if you could run that, Mr. O'Connor, and then if you could call over there to the folks. We've got a real surprise for you guys. It's really fun. Let me explain it while Mr. O'Connor's pulling this up.
Wait, I gotta
There
get
is a street here, and it's not very far, and I'll give you the address, so when you guys go home, you may want to see this. It's the most phenomenal thing. It's about 2 or 3 blocks where they you look like a real, what did they say?
Elongated head.
You look like a dwarf or a dwarf. You look more like a dwarf. Any rate, there's this thing that they decorate the whole street. They synchronize music. You get in your car, you drive down there, and all the lights are synchronated. It's just phenomenal. We're going to
All
talk to the
those are
gentleman
great.
who's done this. So, Mr. O'Connor, could you run our little Christmas greeting, and then we'll do it. Okay, don't you go away, because we're going to have some Christmas fun. We've kind of worn out our our options here, at least until after Christmas, with what the courts are going to do.
Well, we could sing some Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah, I don't know. Mr. O'Connor's front. There you go. This is done by a drone. Am I online? Can you hear me? Okay, this is all done by a drone flying down the neighborhood. And believe me, this is really a sight to see. And we have on the line, we have Steve Hoffman, who is the gentleman who has provided this absolute, or at least the motivation behind the light show. Steve, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be a part of it. It's very exciting to put something together that excites so many people.
Well, I've been down there. We wanted to have you on a radio show that I used to do 2 years ago, as you know, and you're not gonna believe this. We did the show. We're gonna do it live, and we had a power failure in the studio.
I know. I can't believe that. That's bizarre.
We didn't know whether we were broadcasting or not. We had to send somebody out to their car and listen. We were broadcasting, but we didn't know it.
He
And
was
that
using all the power in that neighborhood.
Yeah, that's why we were out of power. You were using it all, Steve. At any rate, tell us about how this got started, Steve. This is a phenomenal project.
I'm gonna go back a little ways because I used to do almost 20 years ago a haunted house, and in the haunted house, which was well decorated with props and many different lights and stuff, and to put lights to music in old-fashioned time is called a light organ, and it works off of bass, treble, and mid-range of the sound or the level of noise that comes out of music or whatever you're listening to. And then the lights work according to that. So if it was a bass drum going boom, 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 your lights would be doing that. And if it was a fiddle, it would be high pitch and going yee, 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 and the lights would be doing according to that.
Wow.
But it was very primitive, and I go, there's got to be something better than that. So after we ended up not doing the haunted house anymore, I wanted to do something with Christmas lights, and we were at a Trans-Siberian Orchestra concert, and I looked at my wife and I went, oh my gosh, these people know how to make music work the lights, you know? And I said, there's got to be something out there. So I researched it, and I came up with a company that builds a lot of the equipment for that, for professional, all the way down to residential. And I said, oh, man. And then I looked at the program, and the program is one that is written to music. So when you have this chart laid out on your computer, it is 16 channels deep.
Whoa.
And every channel is divided by 1/10 of a second, and you put in what you want the lights to do.
Well, you know,
So
I did not quite recognize that Christmas music that was playing. It's not one
Was
of my,
that Trans-Siberian?
not one of my
I don't want to
favorite
get
characters.
too far
One
into
of my
it,
favorite
but
carols.
that's how it works. And so the song is the initiative. The program is what the lights actually do. Then it processes it, and I send it out on my computer to a Cat5 cable to these controllers, and the controllers are 16 channels per unit. And so we can divide. We can set controller 1, 2, 3, 4. You can go up all the way to 1096, but that's getting crazy.
Wow.
Well,
listen,
we're
Steve,
much lower than that.
I don't know that many of us know the technology behind this, but it is one heck of a great idea. It right now, if you could tell us where this is. I'm sure you're standing outside, or at least looking outside. How's the traffic outside?
No, I'm inside because it's too noisy out there.
I mean, there's usually
the
just
street's going crazy. Man.
hundreds and hundreds of cars going
Yeah,
through there.
what's the address we can...
The street is completely full of cars, not to mention all these people walking up and down the sides of the street. So the sidewalks are full, the streets are full. It's on Voltaire, and it's just south of Thunderbird, First Street south of Thunderbird, off of Tatum Boulevard, and it goes to 46th Street. But it also goes to 47th and up to East Sharon and back down 46th Place. So it does kind of a loop. If
And you do
come
have
in
signs.
off of,
You do have signs on. I've seen them. You do have signs on Tatum, just south of Thunderbird, that direct you to the entrance to this winter wonderland that you have.
No, they'll see the entrance as a light flash.
Yeah, it's all lit
you
up.
can't miss that, but there is a sign out there telling you what frequency to turn your radio to, which is 98.1. So you turn your FM dial to that, and then you hear the music that drives all these lights.
Wow.
This is really interesting. Now, Ray, this is one of the really interesting things that you can do right now with COVID, Senator. You can get in your own car and you can drive down the neighborhood and not have to worry like you're in a department store or anything, and wearing masks and button up and so forth and so on.
Just don't pick up the hitchhikers.
Yeah, don't pick up the hitchhikers.
Or you can get out and walk. You said there are people walking on the sidewalks. That's great.
Yeah, and some people are walking with masks, some people are walking without, but they're social distanced anyways, and everybody in their car is their own family, so you're already living with them, so you know if you're well or not. And some cars they've got the windows up and they've got masks on, and the next set of cars the windows are down, the kids are screaming and yelling. So
That was my car.
Yeah.
We have Senator Eddie Farnsworth here, and he's from Gilbert, and he came all the way up here to North Phoenix. And I was telling him to stop by the neighborhood on the way home. It's not too far out of the way, and it's really
it's worth the drive, even if he came all just to see it, because we have people coming all the way from the West Valley, all over. And when it kind of started several years ago, and when the Cardinals or the stadium had the Rose or the
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl. Oh my gosh, we had people from all over the country coming down the street, and they were sending it out via social media to their friends and everything. It was a hit. It was going all over the place.
Well, it's impressive, and it looks like a lot of fun.
How many homes?
And it still is. It's absolutely just a lot of fun.
And
How
it
many
has
homes-
expanded, by the way, from when I was there a couple of years ago. It's expanded. A great
How many
deal.
homes actually participate in that?
Right now we have 42, and 7 more are joining in for next year, so we'll have 50 next year.
Wow,
Impressive.
it is really.
And then the
really
block
fun.
behind me is talking about possibly joining in, so it could grow to another whole different block. But
No, I have a great idea for you. I don't know if you're APS or SRP, but you should actually get with them, have them sponsor it, and have them pay the electric bill during this time as a sponsor.
Well, understand one thing, that through the last 7 years, the lights have changed so much that most everybody on the block have changed to LED. And
Use
the
a lot less
consumption
power,
of electricity is pretty much called nil. There is more electricity consumption for the blow-ups people have than the actual production of the lights, because the lights are not on all the time. They're going on and off. They're twinkling. They're sparkling. So the current draw is just very minimal.
And one of the nice things about this is there's something for everyone. When I was there, one of my it's a pet peeve of mine, because I like to think of Christmas as the birth date of Jesus. And you don't see a lot of that.
That's what it's all about.
You don't see a lot of that in decorations and so forth and in stores.
I got 5 signs on the block relating that Christmas is about Christ.
That's my point, that there are some decorations there.
Well, actually,
and
that's-
signs
is
that
that the
actually
name?
remind
What is-
people that it's Jesus' birthday.
Yeah, what is the name of this extravaganza?
There is no name. But a lot of people call it Lights on Voltaire.
Lights on Voltaire.
Hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what people have named it. We never named it because it's more than one block. It's East Sharon, it's Voltaire, it's 47th Street and 46th Place.
But it does sound like a Las Vegas show. Come join us for Lights on Voltaire.
Yes. Oh man, you are good,
I think
Ray.
the best part of it is that people can share is everybody on our block knows each other. And
that's a wonderful thing,
It
too.
has made this block so strong and incredible. And if you check the records for crime or problems, this street has virtually none. There has not been a robbery or a crime on this street.
I can see why. Listen, I want to ask you a question. You know, we're really close to Christmas. Tomorrow's Christmas Eve, and of course,
Yep.
Friday then is Christmas Day. Saturday, the everything's turned off because Christmas is over, or how long are you going to stay open?
No, to Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, which is on Friday and Saturday nights, we run it to 11 o'clock anyways. But Christmas, I will run it to all the way to 11 o'clock, and same with Christmas.
Well,
the
do you
day
go
after.
through New Year?
And we'll run all the way to New Year's.
Excellent. So there's plenty of time, people, to do this. And,
Yep, you got all the way to January 1st. January 2nd is coming down.
So now you obviously you've invested a lot of time, a lot of effort, and probably a lot of money in these consoles.
I spent a lot of money.
Yeah. So how, I mean, is there any way, because people appreciate this. Now, when you finish it, is there a place that if they appreciate you too, that they can maybe donate some money or anything like that? Do you have anything set up like that?
I have no website or anything. I do stand out there and pass out candy canes.
Let's
from
go.
A tin can, and a lot of
Are you
people
ready,
throw
Senator?
money in.
I'm ready.
Well, that's, no.
Senator
so Ronnie-
Farnsworth wants some candy canes.
So
I do.
Ronnie, he said that he does have a can at the end, and you know what? I'd encourage everybody, especially those of you who would normally go out to events and everything. If you went out, and I know that there's 2 places here in the Valley that have these types of decorations where you drive your car through. You could buy the ticket at Costco, so it isn't something that that is normally just free. I mean, people pay to see this, but to help out these neighborhoods and to help you out and know that you do this from your heart, but it's still great to have this experience and, you know, maybe for the car, you know, throw in a couple dollars just to assist. I think that'd be really nice.
This is a wonderful event, believe me.
And let me understand, or so you understand one thing. A lot of this money that I collect goes to, we pay police officers every Friday and Saturday night from the day after Thanksgiving all the way through to make sure traffic goes smooth on this block. And so there's an outlay of cash for these officers, and that's where the money goes to, is to pay them.
And you know what? That just shows that you truly have the heart of a servant and that you love the Christmas season. You want to put smiles on the kids' faces. And you know what? This last year has been very difficult for everybody. And just something like this gesture is just, we can just tell that you have such an amazing heart and that you're thinking about everybody and that you're there every single night, even when it's freezing cold. What does it get down to, like 40 degrees here? I have my parka on. I'm a native from Phoenix.
Called thermal underwear, baby.
Well, listen, we're going to have to let you go. We've got to move on here. But
All right.
ladies and gentlemen,
Well,
please
you know
take
what?
advantage of
It's
this.
been a delight talking to you. Nice chatting with Senator, and you know, this is good. We've got to spread the cheer, and so many people, as they come down the street, thank me for doing this in a COVID year, because they've been so tied up in their homes, and this is one way for them to get out and just let their heart go, you know.
Yeah, and
Yes.
share in the joy of Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
For
Yep.
sure.
It really puts people in the season.
Well,
Well, I'll be
congratulations.
seeing you sometime soon again, because I'm going to drive through there. So you just save a couple candy canes. I'm not going to do it tonight.
Yeah. Now, Senator,
Okay.
when
Now,
you come,
they're going fast.
yeah. So
But when you
Senator,
see-
when you come through, Uncle Ronnie, when you do, Tara, myself, Ray, when we come through, we're gonna just have a special wave out to you and just let you know that we were the guys that you were talking to on the other end of the phone.
Well, I know where he lives.
Oh.
There you go.
All right.
Okay. Well, Senator, have you come through yet?
I have not. I just learned about it, but I'm very
Okay.
impressed.
So
And
when you come through, the second house on the south side on Voltaire off
Will
of
be
Tatum
on your left as you go
is
down.
got a
Voltaire.
whole bunch of blow-ups in it, and it's got an ice skating rink in the middle of the yard. That's my yard, and pull in my driveway. I would love to meet you and talk with you.
Oh, that's very kind.
And he'll be in the Senate mobile. That's what he drives.
I don't care.
Is
He
that the
drives
one-
a Senate
Is that the
mobile.
one with the plexiglass where you stand up like the Pope
It
has?
looks like
won't hold
Santa's
it
sleigh with the
against them.
plexiglass. Yes.
Okay, well, God bless you for your effort. God bless the neighborhood, and God bless America.
Hey, God bless everybody, man. They're all products of Jesus, and
That's what I was
Amen.
going to say. Oh,
thank
there's
the
those
Lord for
lasers
everything,
again.
man.
Amen.
Lights for
Amen.
Christ.
Yes,
That's
amen.
what it is.
There you go.
Christ.
Lights for Christ.
Yes,
you
sir.
got it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Thank you. You guys have a wonderful,
And you have
Merry
a
Christmas.
fantastic Christmas yourself, you and
Merry
your wife
Christmas.
and family. Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas.
At any
Thank you.
rate, Mr. O'Connor, do you have a quick commercial here? Because we have some more business to transact. And the senator may need to be leaving to get over there and get one of those candy canes. We'll be right back. We're going to go overtime here, but we had a couple things we wanted to talk about. We have the lovely and talented Tara Emmon here.
Tara's here.
And she's not dressed like Uncle Sam tonight.
Arizona's own freedom fighter.
Throughout the summer, Democrats cruelly blocked COVID relief legislation in an effort to advance their extreme left-wing agenda and influence the election. Then, a few months ago, Congress started negotiations on a new package to get urgently needed help to the American people. It's taken forever. However, the bill they are now planning to send back to my desk is much different than anticipated. It really is a disgrace. For example, among the more than 5,000 pages in this bill, which nobody in Congress has read because of its length and complexity, it's called the COVID Relief Bill, but it has almost nothing to do with COVID. This bill contains $85.5 million for assistance to Cambodia, $134 million to Burma, $1.3 billion for Egypt and the Egyptian military, which will go out and buy almost exclusively Russian military equipment. $25 million for democracy and gender programs in Pakistan. $505 million to Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama. $40 million for the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., which is not even open for business. $1 billion for the Smithsonian, and an additional $154 million for the National Gallery of Art. Likewise, these facilities are essentially not open. $7 million for reef fish management, $25 million to combat Asian carp, $2.5 million to count the number of amberjack fish in the Gulf of Mexico, a provision to promote the breeding of fish in federal hatcheries, $3 million in poultry production technology, $2 million to research the impact of down trees, $566 million for construction projects at the FBI. The bill also allows stimulus checks for the family members of illegal aliens, allowing them to get up to $1,800 each. This is far more than the Americans are given. Despite all of this wasteful spending and much more, the $900 billion package provides hardworking taxpayers with only $600 each in relief payments. And not enough money is given to small businesses, and in particular restaurants, whose owners have suffered so grievously. They were only given a deduction for others to use in business their restaurant for 2 years. This 2-year period must be withdrawn, which will allow the owners to obtain financing and get their restaurants back in condition. Congress can terminate it at a much later date, but 2 years is not acceptable. It's not enough. Congress found plenty of money for foreign countries, lobbyists, and special interests while sending the bare minimum to the American people who need it. It wasn't their fault. It was China's fault, not their fault. I am asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000 or $4,000 for a couple. I'm also asking Congress to immediately get rid of the wasteful and unnecessary items from this legislation and to send me a suitable bill, or else the next administration will have to deliver a COVID relief package, and maybe that administration will be me, and we will get it done. Thank you very much.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back. It is Ray Michaels from Street Talk. We are here on Trump Fridays, and I have our very, very special guest. Now, you come out here to El Capo. It's got some amazing food, but it all happens because of this man right here. This is James. He is the owner here. James, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, James, I'll tell you what, everybody loves coming here, and your pizza is spectacular.
Oh, thank you very much. It's very nice to hear.
Well, I'll tell you, is it a special recipe? I got to know.
Yes, it is a special recipe. You know, everyone says that water is the big deal why you can't get good New York-style pizza in Arizona. So we actually have a secret ingredient where we use beer. My family actually owns a State 48 brewery, so I actually use their beer in our dough recipe.
Well, that works out pretty good. So you have a whole family in the restaurant industry.
Yes, I do.
Well, James, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget El Capo, you got to come out. Trump Fridays happens every single Friday right here on Scottsdale Road and Shea. I'm Ray Michaels. We'll see you real soon.
You're listening to Fighting Back, news talk, current events, and political commentary. Now here's the host of Fighting Back, Uncle Ronnie.
You know, Uncle Ronnie, I always get anxious when I see that last part that you just played about how much money is being spent on all of our elected officials being lawyered up.
They lawyered up at $1,500 an hour.
Cool.
And there's four of them.
There's four of them.
Yeah.
$6,000, and that's kind of crazy.
But who pays for that? It can't be us, right?
I think it
Are
is.
you kidding? It is us.
It is.
That's why I'm having nothing for Christmas, because I'm
Yeah.
paying for lawyers for the Secretary of State and the Board of Supervisors.
Unwillingly,
You
you're
can
doing
borrow
that.
one of the cars.
Yeah.
At any rate, let me get us back in here. We're here with Ray Michaels, Senator Eddie Farnsworth. We've shortened his name now just to Eddie or Senator Farnsworth because we have the wonderful and talented Tara. And you notice tonight she's not dressed like Uncle Sam. But we wanted to have her on here for two reasons. One, she's going to Georgia. She's going to make sure that the GOP elects
whip 'em
two
into shape.
senators, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the other, we wanted to talk a little bit about this. Well, I'm getting $600 for Christmas. What are you getting?
Oh man.
$600.
Yeah, but if I was illegal, I'd get $1,800.
That doesn't even cover your car payment.
No,
No. Or rent.
no. And it's supposed to be a stimulus for the economy.
And you know what? Speaker Pelosi said, this is so important for everybody to get this much money. And then I think how much money is going outside of our country
Billions.
to all of these
Trillions.
foreign nations.
Let's talk about that
Wow.
just a little bit. And this is
How
one
did I
of the
know you
neat
had
things
that
about
ready?
having Senator Farnsworth here is because if there's any one duty that the legislature is charged with, it is developing a budget for the new fiscal year for the state of Arizona. And believe me, it's not a small budget, is it?
No, and it's our only constitutional duty. We could actually go in and pass a budget and leave.
How big is the budget here?
It's now probably creeping up towards 11 billion.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
Wowzers, that's tough, man.
and that doesn't include the money that comes from the Fed that basically is a pass through. So,
I remember Secretary of State Bennett used to do the shoebox.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
All the monies we get for education, it's amazing. And then they passed 208 where we got more money for education. And it gets crazy because somehow or other, oftentimes the teachers don't get that money. It's eaten up before it gets to their pocketbook.
All right.
And which is sad because we all know the value of education. And it's just an empty, bottomless pit.
Yeah.
If we don't get the results, I don't believe we get the biggest bang for the buck, Senator.
that's probably true.
Yeah.
Is it because I'm illiterate? Is that why you pointed me out? I don't know.
It was because you were an attorney.
I see. So somehow we overpaid for the education I got. That's what you're
Yeah.
suggesting. Yes, thank you.
Well, let's see. If I'm not mistaken, you were a U of A graduate?
I was undergrad, yeah, and then I went to
Here's
George
a guy
Washington.
that lives, can you believe he lives up here in the shadow of Arizona State University, went to the U of A, the University of Arizona. Oh my gosh. How did you get elected with that?
It's Arizona.
It's Arizona.
He
Yeah,
represents
I wear
Arizona.
I wear the hat, and everybody says, "There you go." That's local patriotism at its best.
So anyway, we have a couple of things here. I'm probably going to get $600.
Well, congratulations,
guys?
Uncle Ronnie.
What are you going to get?
Actually don't think I'll get it.
We're all citizens, so we're not getting the 1,800, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. Retroactive.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but listen to this. Burma, you know what that is? It's the Burma shave.
Is that,
Burma, yeah.
is that Myanmar?
Burma gets $135 million.
Wow.
Cambodia gets $85.5 million. You know, the points are important, especially if it's the election, because some candidates got 0.5 votes.
Yeah.
How that ever happened, I'll never know. But
I wonder.
yeah, okay. But this is the good one. Now, you know, let's talk about Asia, because Asia's a nice place. But when you think of Asia, you oftentimes think of China.
China.
No,
And
it's
when you know
China.
China. And then when you and Wuhan, we have a friend from Wuhan. As a
we
matter of fact.
do.
We've
Yes, I interviewed her.
Yeah, we've interviewed her.
Yeah.
She's from Wuhan.
Teresa.
And she is, I don't know if you know her. She's the best conservative that I've ever met. I mean, this woman just dislikes anything Chinese and anything that's liberal. I mean,
Good for her.
But she
I've not
lived
met
it.
her, I
She
don't believe.
lived it. She came over here and she said, I'm never going back.
She's seen the ill effects of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, if you want to know where America's headed, ask somebody that was born in another country and
Yep.
came here to get
Right.
away from
Amen.
Right.
That's right.
from that. So, at any rate, this is what I don't understand. This thing is called the Asian Reassurance Initiative Act.
Because they need to be reassured that they're Asian.
I guess they need to know
Maybe.
that they're Asian, and they got $1.4 billion.
Billion.
Billion
Is that a
dollars.
B?
Yeah, with a
Wow.
B.
They really want to be assured.
And then
Yeah.
Nepal. Do you know where Nepal is?
I do know where Nepal is.
The home of the abominable snowman.
Yeah.
And that's easy for you to
And they
say.
got that big mountain there.
Everest?
Mount Everest.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, they get $130 million.
Wow.
And the Tibetan money system, that's probably half of the worth of the country is $130 million, because their money, I think most people live there on about $200 a year in U.S. money.
It depends on how high you go.
Yes, and then of course we get $3 million for the Hong Kong Rioter Act here to help the Hong Kong rioters riot or repair
geez.
the damages. we don't do that for American cities, or do we? I've seen some of the bills now. They're coming in and they want, this is funny, they want Americans, well, I shouldn't say American, they want citizens in other states to pay
Taxpayers.
for some of the damages that BLM and Antifa
Yeah,
did.
they want taxpayers to pay
Yep.
for what the non-taxpayers did.
Right,
I think it should be taken out of their check. And they should
right.
pay.
And so, at any rate, Ray, how big do you think this bill was? I mean, let's face it, here, I think the senator would say if he got a bill on his desk that was this thick, you'd think that was a big bill, wouldn't you?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. See, and it's kind of, see, but this is a lot. That's like 32 pages.
Wasn't it like
But not a
1,500?
budget bill. A budget bill would be much bigger.
But how big was this one, Ray?
Close to 6,000 pages.
What?
Yeah. But you know what? They did give them plenty of time to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. What did they give them, 2 hours?
Yeah.
Well, I think it was a little more.
I think 4.
Maybe
4 hours.
Yeah.
Of course, we
Yeah,
got
well,
6,000
So what are
Should've
they
picked up
complaining
4.
about?
Yeah.
If you can
geez,
speed
come on.
read, you could only get about.
Evelyn Wood could not have gotten through this. I'm telling you.
So at any rate, we got a problem here. Now,
Houston, we have a problem.
You get $600. Maybe get $600. But here's the thing. Being an accountant, guess what I did? I did some numbers. How much money do you think you have to pay in taxes? Somebody's got to collect that money.
That's right.
Yeah.
How much every American owes just for this bill? $6,000.
Every single person pays in $6,000,
And that the wee little babies.
and they get back
$600.
$600. It
What a
sounds like a
deal.
Las Vegas trip.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
good deal.
Wow, what a deal. And the sad thing about it is, those of you that watched the president talk, I mean, he's angry about this. And
Yep.
he's going to do something.
He is.
And the thing, Eddie, maybe you can explain this. If you can't, I can try to explain it. Tara
We're back
can
to that
probably.
education thing.
We
again.
got it. I got it typed up
Oh,
there
I'm sorry.
for
You
you.
went to the U of A. I'll explain it.
Now, did you go to ASU?
I went to EIU,
EIU, and you're giving them a hard time.
Eastern Illinois University.
I know, but only ASU people give people.
EIU.
Uncle Ronnie had a farm.
At any rate, there's one of the things the president was wanting to do, and we want to cover this because we're going to get out of here at the half hour, which is only about 3 minutes. But Tara, why don't you tell us about this? Because the
Yeah.
president has some options, and he's decided he's not going to sign this bill.
Nope. So there's trillions and billions going out for other countries, but we still get that lousy $600.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But they're fresh, new bills
Oh,
and very
okay.
crisp.
Well,
So we should be
I
happy.
like this one cartoon that I saw, and it says, "Well, we've really screwed your life up for the last 10 months.
Here's $600.
Here's $600 to make it good."
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch.
I think Nancy is the Grinch.
Okay.
Well, anyways, with the pocket veto, the Constitution does grant the president 10 days to review a measure passed by the Congress. If the president has not signed the bill after 10 days, it becomes law without a signature. However, if Congress adjourns during the 10-day period, the bill does not become law.
And what are they going to do at Christmas? Are they going to adjourn?
I hope. Well, let's.
Do you know about those veto things?
Yeah, I do. We
See.
some very similar options that we have in Arizona. So
Yeah.
So it looks like
So a
the
pocket
president
veto,
might
is that
pocket veto.
similar to the pocket fisherman from Ron Popeil?
Oh,
Yeah.
you keep using that Ron Popeil stuff.
it wasn't his bestseller, but yeah, Ron was
Yeah.
peddling that.
It's still the pocket veto.
And that was
Yeah.
yeah, well, that was his. See, I'm Uncle Ronnie, and that was Ron Popeil's Uncle Vito.
That's
At
great.
any rate, there's a lot going on, but listen,
is.
we're getting
But
real
you know what?
close to.
It's Christmas.
It
and,
is.
and let's forget about everything
Merry
for the next
That's
Christmas.
right.
couple of days.
That's right.
Merry
be
Christmas.
with those that we love, and be especially, please, folks. One of the things that really bothers me a lot, and that is this is the birth of Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
Please remember that. I mean, I've been to people's tables and they say, "Would you please offer?" Well, they don't even say. I say,
Offer
"May we have a
grace."
blessing
Yeah.
on the bounty that we experience here and the love that we have." and people kind of look at you like,
Yeah.
what?
Yep.
You know.
And you know what? We want to thank Neil for making those gingerbread cookies for us in the
Oh,
Easy Bake
yeah.
Oven.
And we'd
Thank
like,
you so much.
we'd like to thank Mr. O'Connor for drinking all of the eggnog.
That's right.
So
Yep.
we have none tonight.
That's all right.
And we'd like to thank Tara. She's going to be here through Christmas, and then she's headting out to Georgia to see if she
December
can make a
26th
difference.
through
and
January
we'd like
6th.
to thank Eddie Farnsworth, a guy that I've had
Absolutely.
a lot of respect for over the last year.
Oh, stop it. Stop
amazing
it.
studio
Stop it.
audience.
Come on.
Now, this guy is a warrior,
This is
folks,
the most-
and that's what we need in the legislature.
And this is the
warriors.
most important question. What is your favorite Christmas movie?
It has to do with Christ. So we watch movies, different movies about Christ. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Uncle Ronnie, what's your favorite Christmas movie?
Well, I would say it's about Christ, but it actually isn't. I like the Christmas Vacation.
Chris. Tara, how about you?
Oh, it's definitely Elf, Buddy the Elf.
Elf.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a
See,
good one.
mine, I think It's a Wonderful Life. I love
That's
that
good.
one.
It's a very good movie.
Very good.
It's not necessarily
Jimmy
Christmas,
Stewart.
but
But it's still
by
very
Christmas,
good.
yeah.
It is.
Okay, we'd like to thank Mr. O'Connor and happy Christmas to you, Mr. O'Connor, and the executive producer, Mr. Ludders.
That's you.
Neil, thank you for all that you've done. You've put together some of these videos tonight, and we'd like to thank you all and wish you a very Merry Christmas. We'll see you Monday, and next Wednesday we have a big announcement we're going to make. So stay tuned.